Welcome to LawNext PR, the podcast where we put a spotlight on the latest news coming out of the legal tech industry. This is Bob Ambrogi, and in each episode of LawNext PR, we interview a legal tech company about its latest news and developments. Today, we're talking about the company LawToolBox and its new MCP for Microsoft 365 and Claude. And here to discuss it with us and tell us all about it are Carol-Lynn Grow, the co-owner and COO of LawToolBox, and Jack Grow, the president and CEO. Carol-Lynn and Jack, welcome.
Thank you. We're excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, good to see you. Always good to talk to you. So, Carol-Lynn, you want to kick it off by just kind of telling us, give us the high-level view of what it is you're announcing?
Well, we are announcing an extension, basically, of our current platform that is bringing our MCP both into the Microsoft 365 platform through Studio, as well as through Claude. And our clients are out there using our application. They're using various types of AI, and they have been excited for this announcement for some time so that they can use our platform and our content alongside, their DMS or their legal research and whatever type of AI they have today.
And yeah.
Can I just add to that a little bit? Yeah, I would just
Absolutely.
say, in 2008, we extended kind of our online platform with APIs. And then in about 2020, we kind of extended it by creating an iframe solution that could be incorporated in other products, right? Well, this is kind of maybe the third kind of iteration or evolution of that concept, to be able to take our product and through this amazing MCP concept, expose it to other solutions, whether it's, an AI platforms like Claude or Microsoft or Harvey Lagori, any of those things can consume our MCP, and we're able to kind of surface and get our product out to more people in a better way. So, pretty excited.
So, why does this matter to your customers? Does it matter because it's meeting them where they're working? Is that the primary advantage here?
Well,
absolutely.
Jack, yeah.
I mean, our approach has always been to meet them where they are. So we have an add-in in Outlook. We've got a Teams app. We've got a browser-based solution. We've got solutions that are on your phone. Wherever the legal professional is, we want to be there so that we're minimizing the clicks for what they're doing. And as AI has exploded onto the scene and this MCP, the Claude developed MCPs have come on, it's just a natural evolution, not just for us, but for, to every other company out there to kind of, start looking at these MCPs to kind of build, different ways to kind of expose our product and our solutions in places where our clients are, whether that's Claude or any place.
And just to add to that, so our home, where our clients really spend a lot of their time today and where a lot of their legal content and their thinking, they're exploring, they're analyzing is happening inside meetings, inside their Outlook inbox, in the documents and chats. And so much of their content and the context of what's important and the legal issues that are being discussed are happening inside of their Microsoft 365. And, as a business that has chosen to have our cloud be our client's Microsoft account, we're excited about taking what our clients call our matter data containers that get smarter throughout the day as they use and collaborate on their matters and save some of their best AI results to that matter data container. Now, the other AIs that they might be using that don't live inside natively in the Microsoft account, they may have a tunnel connector. Those applications now have access to this warm, live, very active data that our system is pulling into their matters inside of Microsoft. So, yeah, we're excited about it from a lot of different angles, and our clients are as well.
So, if somebody's listening to this right now and wondering kind of what are the implications for them, I mean, could you maybe walk me through a scenario of how somebody might use this connector? Maybe they're working in Claude. Let's take that example. What does this enable them to do?
Okay, so when a user is in Claude and they have actually connected to the LawToolBox MCP with our connector, it gives them access to our MCP server, and it allows them through approximately 70 different tools to get, to perform different functions within LawToolBox or from LawToolBox just by asking Claude chat. And so you take that connector, which is pretty powerful just in and of itself, and then you amplify and you train it with the skills. And so you can build these skills. We've built several skills that we share with customers that they can go and then they can manipulate and customize. But when you take these skills, you can actually kind of, instead of just getting kind of the raw Claude reaction to bringing our anchored data into their environment where they do things like, hey, what are my upcoming deadlines for the next 20 days? And being able to get those deadlines coming in, you're not getting dentist appointments, you're not getting birthdays, you're getting your legal events, kind of anchored to your Claude. That's great. But when you take the skills and you add to it, you can do some amazing things. So one of the things we've done, we've got a lot of features behind the scenes that we're taking advantage of through the MCP. So for example, just the upcoming deadlines example. When an upcoming deadline comes in, maybe today there's a deadline to file an answer, but Claude doesn't see that there is an actual answer filed in the case. We can use Claude and train it through the skill to alert us and say, hey, you might consider filing an answer, if one's been filed or some type of a pleading that's responsive because the deadline's expired. And if you don't put that trigger date in, you're not going to get the dependent deadlines that run off of it downstream. So there's lots of ways that you kind of take this stuff and you can really anchor it and do some amazing things. One of the most powerful things I've seen when we analyze like a deadline that comes in, a summary judgment is like what I always talk about whenever I'm giving an example of things. So you take a deadline for summary judgment in the Jones v. Smith case, and you ask Claude to analyze it. Not only will it kind of tell you about the deadline, give you a plan to actually say, okay, you might consider this timeline for complying with it. Here are the people that are working on the case, and it'll give you kind of your best arguments, and it'll give you the arguments of your opposing counsel because we've trained it with the skill to do that. Then it'll say things like, do you want to draft a pleading, to help you kind of get started responding to that? And so what we can do is we can point to the SharePoint site where we've got a sample caption for that matter and say, yeah, go ahead and draft me, a first draft of my motion for summary judgment. And it'll ask a couple follow-up questions, and then kind of using that information, what it's got from like kind of anchored with the deadline information and just Claude in general, it constructs, and then obviously the caption from the pleading it's referring to, it constructs a pretty amazing first draft of that pleading that you can actually start working with. It's absolutely fascinating. It's so much fun to work with. I'm having a blast.
So Jack just gave a description of how our platform works inside of Claude. And he talked about the skills that we've created to make out of the box available to our end customers. So our partners are developing these skills as well and making them available. And every skill we create, whether we're creating it for the Microsoft 365 MCP that lives inside a studio or whether we're creating it inside of Claude, they're interchangeable. And it's really the same back-end MCP. And what we're hearing and seeing from our clients is that, different people have different opinions about what they like to use a lot of or a little of. And people tend to be mixing and matching, more than one or AI platforms. And, we used to talk about meeting our clients where they work because we meet them on their phone or in Word. Our application appears in Word or Outlook or Teams. But now we're meeting them in the AI they like to spend their time in. And we allow them to, our more recent press release, we talked about how we save the learnings from, for example, our clients that have a Copilot license and they do some work, they're evaluating, they're researching, an issue, and they're like, this is great. I love it. Save. And now it's in that data container. Later that afternoon, an associate or a managing partner is looking at stuff in this container, get smarter and smarter. And now these other AIs can tap into our MCP and not just get our calendaring data and all the user information and who's doing what and who has what coming up, but they can also see what's in this matter data container with the right, permissions that their IT have set up. And so I just wanted to add that little bit there.
Yeah. You talk about the 70 tool. This comes with 70 tools. Are there, can you give me some more examples of those? Are there a couple that you think are going to be the ones that lawyers are most likely to be using most frequently?
I'll give mine, and then Carol-Lynn, you give yours. How's that?
Okay, sure.
What's your favorite tool?
Yeah. Well, upcoming deadlines. So every day, every morning that you go and you get your cup of coffee, doesn't matter whether you're an attorney or, you're working in an insurance company, you need to find out what you're going to do, right? So when you can get your upcoming deadlines kind of being pushed to you, because you could build an agent that will kind of push those deadlines to you every day. You can look forward 7 days, 14 days, whatever you need. When you get that list there, it highlights critical issues, urgent issues, and other things. I think that's absolutely critical. The deadline analysis is amazing. The matter, just give me a stat on the matter. It's amazing. Just all the different components and all these things tied together. So it isn't like the tools themselves, like, one of the queries like upcoming deadlines might invoke, a dozen different tools within it to do different things, because the tools are basically, they're like API calls in a sense, right? Behind the scenes, kind of performing different functions. And so when you are performing something like an upcoming deadline or looking at, deadline analysis, you're drawing on a huge, kind of subset of those tools within that skill, within that call. So those are my favorite. Carol-Lynn, what do you think?
Well, so if you think about reports and deadlines, we've got activities, matters that haven't been touched, things that have been changed. We have reports across matter types. We associate tags with certain types of key milestone deadlines. From those, the MCP can be used to then go trigger an e-signature or a filing or some, research or double checking or putting something on a calendar or sending an email. And because we've always had this underlying architecture that orchestrates what needs to happen, when, by whom, with links back to, the laws that are governing this, we're able to really, we used to just send an email reminder back in, the early days of our web-based application, reminding somebody to go do something right before that deadline's expired. And now when you combine that with an MCP and tags related to those deadlines and smart people out there leveraging those tags in the MCP to drive workflow, we're pretty excited. So I would say the reports, obviously all the different deadline versions carry tags that then can drive workflow. And then, of course, Our deadlines are inextricably connected to the DMS platforms, whether a client's using iManage or NetDocuments, and these deadlines understand that document, and that end user has access to that document. And then imagine what you can do with that when you've combined, the workflow and the timing and the deadline and the source document where it lives. So I talked earlier about the matter data container and the idea that as attorneys are thinking and working in paralegals and they're throwing their latest thoughts in, that's obviously at the top of my list, but I already talked about that one. So,
yeah.
And there's one other thing that I'd like to extend kind of where the conversation. So I love what the Law Toolbox MCP in and of itself does. And I love the capabilities and functions there. But what I think, like, I get goosebumps when I think about the interactions, not just with one MCP, but combining them. So, for example, we've got an integration with InfoDrac, Docket Sync, and e-filing that's kind of cross-platform, kind of goes both directions. Mm-hmm. Built into the UI. But when you kind of step back and you can do this through an MCP, you can take advantage of, a company that goes out and pulls the dockets from the courts and use that MCP to pull in information that then LawToolBox can leverage to put things directly into the matter calendar that gets pushed to the Microsoft environment and that entire AI matter container that Carol-Lynn's talking about. And then you pull in, like, whether it's SharePoint or iManage or NetDocuments for the DMS thing, you've got this beautiful kind of cocktail of, dockets, deadlines, and amazing things there. It's kind of a fascinating way that you can kind of blend these things without having to do this big 6-month integration.
Yeah, that is really exciting. As you said earlier, this is all really fun stuff right now. It's really cool what it could do. Are there limits to what you can do with the MCP connector that people should be aware of?
Well, What I would say, so we've built, when they first rolled out the Copilot, we were like, the first non-Microsoft company to actually build the Copilot agent, right? That had limitations. That had, it was very cool, but you had to pick like 6 different functions that you could roll out within that. So it was limited to those 6 functions. Now with the MCP, there are limits as well to the number of tools that you can have in there. I mean, you can roll out other tools and do different functions. That's how you could kind of accommodate this. But it's pretty fascinating because what's happened is as we've kind of built the product, we built the connector, we've rolled out the skills and tried the skills, we keep thinking in our heads, oh, we got to try this. We need this function. We need this other function. And there really aren't, as long as you can imagine it and build a little tool to accommodate a simple piece of things, there's some absolutely fascinating things you can do. I'm sure there are limits to what this can do, but right now we're just exploring kind of more so the capability, not where it breaks. So now I haven't really seen a lot of those things, and that's I think that's this point in time and in history is absolutely fascinating because when the whole AI models came on with OpenAI and all of those things, it injected a completely different level of enthusiasm and excitement and innovation into the industry that you really hadn't seen since 2000, 2005, that kind of era where the internet was just kind of being born. But I don't know, Carol-Lynn, your thoughts?
No, I think I'd echo what you were saying. My mind was wandering off to kind of a topic that I think is front and center in a lot of people's minds, which is keeping the data where it is and keeping it secure, and all these fears about agents going wild. And everything we're doing with MCP, I think it does center back to our clients live inside of Microsoft, whether they're using Copilot and Claude, or they're using a little more Copilot or a little more Claude. The data and the place that our application operates is in their Microsoft account. And, I just came back from Silicon Valley office at Microsoft yesterday and got to hear the latest and greatest on Agent 365, which is the governance and the visibility of, how do we govern and manage the agents themselves. And I do think, we feel very excited to be leveraging the kind of security that is getting invested in these key major players in the industry. So,
yeah. So we've been pretty fortuitous in the sense that, when COVID hit, we were one of the first companies that had built a Teams app that was already there. So when everybody left their offices and went home, we were living where they were doing their work. That was it was really valuable for LawToolBox as a company, valuable for our clients. Before kind of the OpenAI came out and kind of really, changed the marketplace, we had been building these Microsoft containers where all of the data was living within these containers and shared and behind this Microsoft firewall and purview and their security things. Microsoft spends $1 billion a year protecting all that stuff. We built everything behind that. So when AI came out, AI needs that structure, right? It needs the containers. And it needs if you don't put stuff in containers, you get, your information spalls, you don't get good responses. But if you got these good tight containers that we were building before AI hit, you've got an amazing architecture to go out there and actually take advantage of all of these amazing AI tools coming out.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have, committed yourself to M365, and that's really kind of been your home for a number of years now. Does this start to change that? Not that those Microsoft tools become less important, but do lawyers start to live less like literally in M365 and more in, between orchestration and connectors and everything else that's going on into a range of different applications that are all getting tied together
I think that absolutely is happening. I mean, I spend a huge part of my day inside of Claude, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's an amazing product. And, one of the things Microsoft's done is they've actually, it's not just their model inside of there. They're not just using OpenAI and Azure OpenAI. Then you can invoke the Claude model inside of Microsoft. So they've seen the writing on the wall too, that people want different options. And that's what we've always been around about, like giving people what they need, where they need it, when they need it. That's from day one, that's what we've been trying to do. So I think it's very real that the way that people are going to be doing their work will change. But our goal is to be right there with them.
The only thing I would add to that is, until people change their email platform and their calendar platform, there's still this big draw to where a lawyer has to live because, they're interacting with their clients and agencies and courts and that's where a lot of the data begins. But absolutely, I think everybody's living everywhere, and bringing your tools and making them part of the flow of the work they're doing and not making people move their data, I think is key.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on this launch. Anything else that you wanted to make sure to highlight? I know we can't go into all the details in the time we have here, but anything else that you wanted to highlight that we haven't had a chance to talk about?
We've got so many things going on. I'm not going to, I could take another 5 minutes listing the things. We just rolled out a new UI on our product. We just rolled out new homepages. We're rolling out a new mobile app. We have a new Deadline AI extraction model that is amazing, but for a different day, perhaps.
Okay. We'll have you back to talk about all that.
Yeah. And I guess the only thing that I would add is that we're excited about our community of partners, our community of consultants that are helping, build all of these skills and bring them to clients and helping them understand what all this means, because we're all learning together. So that's a big part of what we're doing over the coming weeks with this announcement.
And LawToolBox will be at ILTACon talking about all this in the week ahead. So
absolutely
looking forward to that and seeing you and learning more. Well, thanks a lot to both of you, and congratulations on this launch. Sounds really cool and really fun, as Jack said.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Bob.
And that's it for today's episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or you can find us on YouTube at LawNext PR. You can also find all of these episodes on the LawNext Legal Tech directory. This is Bob Ambrogi. Thanks for listening or watching today. Appreciate it.